of the flight of the Noldor. The dream did not rush forward. It lingered, as though the world itself hesitated before the road that was about to open. Valinor lay dim beneath the newborn stars, beautiful still, yet wounded beyond concealment. I felt the land resisting what was coming, like a shore bracing against a storm it cannot turn aside. The Noldor gathered in uneasy multitudes, their voices low, their thoughts loud. The light was gone, but its absence burned hotter than its presence ever had. Everywhere I drifted, I felt questions pressing against silence. Are we truly leaving? Can this be undone? And beneath those questions, deeper still, the pull of Fëanor's will, fierce and uncompromising, dragging the future toward himself. Fëanor stood apart, his sons close around him like drawn blades. His grief had settled into something colder now, sharper, shaped by purpose. Finwë's death lay upon him like iron armor. The Silmarils burned in his mind with a clarity that excluded all else. To him, the road was already chosen. The world would either follow or break. Fingolfin watched him from a distance. I felt the storm within him, love for his brother struggling against the weight of foreknowledge. He saw the cost ahead more clearly than most, yet he also saw the danger of division. To abandon Fëanor entirely would tear the Noldor apart before they had even set foot beyond Aman. And so Fingolfin chose the harder path to follow, not because he trusted the oath, but because he feared what would happen if he did not. Finarfin lingered longest. I felt his heart pulling west and east at once, torn between loyalty to his kin and fidelity to the Valar. He walked among the people, listening, calming where he could, but each word of Fëanor's made his doubt heavier. When at last the choice could no longer be delayed, sorrow passed over him like a shadow, for he already sensed that this road would demand more than courage. It would demand repentance, and not all would find it in time. My spirit was far away, walking again with the exiles, and I knew that the doom spoken in Valinor had followed them like a shadow that no fire could outpace. The Valar spoke at last, and the air itself seemed to stiffen under the weight of their judgment. Manwë's voice came on the wind, grave and clear. "Go if you must," he said, "but know this. Beyond this hour, Valinor shall be shut against you. The world outside will not love you as you imagine, nor forgive you as easily as you hope." Scarcely had the ships of Fëanor vanished into the east, their white sails like torn wings against the dark sea, than the voice of Mandos rose upon the shores of Aman. It did not thunder, yet it shook the heart more deeply than any storm. His words were not wrath alone, but judgment woven with sorrow, for he spoke what must be, not what he desired. Tears would be shed unnumbered, he said, and the Noldor would slay and be slain. Treachery would awaken treachery, and the very works of their hands would turn against them. Mando's words followed, colder still, and they struck me like frost across water. Doom was spoken again, not as threat, but as truth. The path of exile was named for what it was, and still the Noldor did not turn back. Long would they yearn for the light they had forsaken, and though they might come to Middle-earth in might and splendor, the end of their pride would be grief, and when at last they begged pardon, it would be granted. But only after all that had been spoken was fulfilled. Even now, dreaming, I felt the chill of those words, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. Across the great sea, Fëanor drove his people without pause, and the fire of his will burned hotter with every league of water left behind. To him the doom was nothing more than the echo of fear, and Middle-earth loomed ahead as both battlefield and throne. His sons followed, bound to him by love, fear, and the terrible oath that now ruled their lives more fully than wisdom or mercy. So Fëanor moved swiftly, as though afraid that hesitation might weaken him. He went to the havens of the Teleri, whose swan ships lay moored upon the water, pale and beautiful even in the dim starlight. The Teleri stood upon the quays, wary and grieving, their songs quieter now than they had once been. Olwe came forward, and his voice carried sorrow rather than anger. "You ask what we cannot give," he said. "These ships are the labor of our hearts. We will not lend them to bloodshed or rebellion." Fëanor's answer was sharp. "Then you withhold aid from kin in need." "We withhold murder," Olwe replied, and his words fell like a closing door. What followed felt unreal, even within the dream, as though the music itself recoiled. Steel flashed where no steel should have been drawn. Cries rose in the haven, sharp and terrible, echoing across the water. The white ships were stained red, and the sea learned a new sound, the sound of kinslaying. I turned away, but the dream would not let me escape it. The first blood was spilled there, and it cried out, staining not only the hands of those who struck, but the fate of all who followed them. Fingolfin arrived too late to prevent it, and I felt the weight of that failure settle into him like a permanent wound. The stolen ships were taken north, and when they had served Fëanor's purpose, he burned them at Losgár, the flames leaping high against the dark. I felt Fingolfin's despair as he stood watching the fire consume their only hope of an easier crossing. Far behind them, Finarfin stood at the edge of decision. I felt the moment when his heart finally broke open. Not in anger, but in clarity. He turned back, and with him, those whose courage took the form of humility. They returned to Valinor, to judgment and forgiveness, while the rest pressed on into exile. But Fingolfin's host, abandoned upon the shores of Aman, stood long in silence before the sea. I saw them as if I walked among them, faces pale with shock, eyes hollow with betrayal. They had not chosen rebellion lightly, and now even the road they had accepted was torn away. Some wept openly, others cursed Fëanor's name, yet Fingolfin stood firm among them, his grief sealed behind a king's restraint. He spoke not of vengeance, but of endurance. If they turned back, shame would follow them all their days. If they pressed on, suffering awaited, but also the chance to shape their fate by their own hands. And so the hosts divided, not in loyalty, but in suffering. Fëanor led his people forward swiftly, hardened by fire and oath. And so, with a resolve quieter but deeper than Fëanor's fire, Fingolfin turned north with those who would not abandon him, toward the grinding cold of the Helcaraxë, where ice waited like a judgment older than words. Never was a road more cruel. As they marched, the world itself seemed to resist them. The ice cut flesh and spirit alike. The wind screamed with voices not their own. Many fell and were left behind without song or marker. Fingolfin walked among them, bearing the weight of kingship before he had truly claimed it, offering strength where he could, silence where nothing else remained. The grinding ice was not merely cold, it was alive with death. Vast floes collided like slow, merciless beasts, crushing those who slipped between them. Bitter winds flayed flesh and spirit alike, and darkness lingered long beneath starless skies. Children were lost, and the strong stumbled beside the weak. Songs faded into whispers, and hope itself seemed to freeze within the heart. Yet still they went on. In my dream I felt a strange reverence for Fingolfin then, deeper than admiration. Fëanor burned like a falling star, bright, terrible, brief. But Fingolfin endured like stone beneath the weight of ages. He did not promise triumph, only survival, and even that at great cost. When some faltered, he bore their despair without rebuke, and when others cursed the path, he did not deny their pain. Meanwhile, far ahead, Fëanor reached Middle-earth. The land lay under starlight alone, raw and waiting, untouched by the ordered beauty of Aman. To Fëanor it was not bleak, but free. He set foot upon its shores as a conqueror, naming the place of his landing and claiming the wide world as his inheritance. There, under cold stars, he spoke again of the Silmarils and of Melkor, whom he named Morgoth, the black enemy of the world. But even in that first hour, the seeds of ruin were already sprouting. His sons heard his words not as counsel, but as command, and the oath tightened its grip upon their souls. Brotherhood began to strain beneath it, and trust wore thin, replaced by suspicion and grim resolve. When at last Fingolfin's host emerged from the ice, diminished and scarred, the sun rose for the first time upon Middle-earth. I felt that moment like a breath drawn after long suffocation. The light was young and fierce, and it revealed all things without mercy, both the glory of the Noldor and the cost of their defiance. Thus the Noldor stood at last in Middle-earth, divided in spirit, bound by oath, marked by doom. Behind them lay the Blessed Realm, now closed and fading into memory. Before them stretched a world shadowed by Morgoth, vast and unforgiving, yet filled with the promise of deeds that would shape the fate of elves and men alike. As my dream carried me onward, I felt both sorrow and awe. For though the flight of the Noldor was born of pride and blood, it was also the beginning of their greatest tales, of courage that defied despair, of kingdoms raised beneath the stars, and of choices whose echoes would reach even to the ending of the world. I understood with aching certainty that nothing that followed, neither glory nor grief, could ever be separated from the choices made on that road, when pride, love, fear, and fate crossed paths and chose, together, to walk into shadow.
Snow on the silent sea, oars that never move, white swan ships waiting, harbors hold their breath. Still in a burning hand, oath on a crimson shore, brothers against pale kin, salt tears and other red. Voices once brave and breaking, pearls in the water, sinking with the slain. Kyrie, for the Noldor wandering far. Kyrie, for the shadows in their star. Mercy on the broken crown, mercy on the sundered line. Kyrie, on the road that leaves the light behind. Sails set aflame at night, ash on the sleeping tide. Brothers in distant light close the burning door. Footsteps on grinding ice, each breath a cutting shot. Names in the frozen dark, given to the wind. Fëanor, thunder that would not hear. Fingolfin, walking where the stars are spear. Fathers, sons divided, blood and frost between. Angel Silmarils turn their faces silent toward the west.